They didn't even wait for the music to stop before throwing me out. One minute, I was standing in my mother's living room holding a plastic cup like a guest in my own bloodline, and the next I was on the sidewalk with nothing but my purse and the cold. My family said I didn't belong. They said I brought nothing. But then, while I was sitting on the curb, one stranger leaned in and whispered something that flipped my entire fate upside down. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type "intersteaded" in the comments, and I will give you a heart. I should have known the night would go wrong the moment my sister greeted me with that fake smile, the one she only uses when there's an audience to impress. The house was packed, music low, lights warm, laughter spilling out of every room like everything was perfect. But families like mine only look perfect from far away. Up close, you see the cracks. Up close, you hear the whispers. And from the second I walked in, those whispers landed on me like dust. "She showed up," someone muttered near the kitchen. Bold of her. I pretended not to hear it as I placed my small gift bag on the table. Nothing extravagant, just something thoughtful, something within my means. But around here, thoughtful never mattered. Only expensive did. I tried to blend into the background, hoping to get through the night quietly, unnoticed. But that never works when a family has already decided you're the problem, the outsider, the failure. My brother brushed past me with a look that wasn't even subtle, annoyance mixed with disgust. "Didn't expect to see you," he said under his breath. "Mom said you weren't dressed for the occasion." I looked down at my dress. Simple, clean, not glamorous, but respectful. It didn't matter. Nothing I wore, did, or said ever mattered. "I didn't come to impress anyone," I replied softly. He scoffed. "Yeah, we know." And that's when the first pang of dread hit me, sharp as a pin. You ever walk into a room and immediately feel like the walls already decided what will happen to you? That was me. I considered leaving, slipping away quietly, but something in me kept whispering, "Just survive tonight." Little did I know, tonight would swallow me whole. When the announcement came, when my mother tapped her glass and called for quiet, everyone gathered like it was a royal decree. I stayed near the back, half hidden behind a houseplant, hoping I wouldn't be dragged into anything. But then she said it, loud, clear, heartless. "Before we begin, I want to address something," my mother said, eyes sweeping the room until they found me. "Some people are here tonight who have not contributed to this family in a very long time." A few heads turned in my direction. Heat shot through my face. I prayed. She was talking about someone else. But no, some of us, she went on, refuse to grow up, refuse to help, refuse to pull their weight, yet still show up expecting to be welcomed. A few relatives gasped, not because they were shocked by her cruelty, but because they lived for it. My sister hid a smile behind her wine glass. My brother didn't bother hiding his. My father just looked at the floor. He always looked at the floor. My mother lifted her chin and delivered the final blow. "And if you cannot respect this family enough to contribute, then you should not be here." The silence that followed was suffocating. Everyone knew exactly who she meant, and everyone turned to stare at me like I was a stain on the carpet. My throat tightened. "Mom," I whispered, taking one step forward, "I didn't come to cause trouble." "Then leave," she snapped. The room spun. My heart pounded so loudly, I thought everyone could hear it. "Leave?" I repeated, barely breathing. "Now," she said. "Before you ruin the night." A few voices murmured agreement. Some nodded. No one defended me. Not one. My sister folded her arms. "You should go. This is embarrassing." My brother added, "Don't make a scene. Just leave quietly, please." Quietly. The irony. They wanted to humiliate me loudly, but they wanted me to disappear quietly. My chest burned. My palms shook. I looked at my father, begging him with my eyes to say something, anything. He wouldn't even look at me. That hurt more than the words. That hurt more than the room full of people watching me unravel. I swallowed every ounce of pride I had left, nodded once, and walked toward the door. No one stopped me, no one apologized, no one said, "Wait, this is wrong." I stepped outside into the night, the warm air replaced by a sharp cold that slapped me across the face. I didn't even notice I was crying until the wind made my tears sting. I stood there on the sidewalk, hugging myself because no one else ever would. And that's when I heard it. My mother closing the door behind me, laughing as she returned to the party. They didn't even pause. They tossed me out like trash and went right back to celebrating. I walked down the street, unsure where I was going because I had nowhere. My apartment lease had ended, my savings were gone, I had nothing but my purse, my phone at 8% battery, and a family who decided I didn't exist. I sat down on the curb, arms wrapped tight around my knees, trying to breathe. People passed by without looking, cars drove past like I was invisible. For the first time in my life, I realized I had no safety net, no home, no one. That's when a shadow approached. Not hurried, not aggressive, just present. I tensed, ready to tell them I was fine, even if I wasn't. But the stranger crouched beside me slowly, giving me space. And then, in the softest voice I'd ever heard, she whispered 7 words that froze every thought in my mind. "I know who you are. Come with me. If you were me, broken, homeless, humiliated, would you go? Or would you run?" For a few seconds, I honestly thought I imagined her voice. The night had been cruel enough already, and exhaustion does strange things to the mind. But when I lifted my head, she was still there. A woman in her mid-40s maybe, dressed simply but beautifully, with a calmness that didn't match the chaos inside me. She wasn't staring the way everyone at the party had. She wasn't judging me. She wasn't pitying me. She was simply seeing me, really seeing me, which somehow felt even more disorienting than being kicked out. "Come with you?" I repeated, wiping at my face awkwardly. "Why?" She didn't answer immediately. She just studied me with an expression that made my spine tingle, like she recognized something in me that even I didn't know was there. Finally, she said, "Because nobody deserves to sit alone in the dark after being pushed out by their own blood." My breath hitched. How did she know? I glanced back toward the house, where laughter still floated through the windows like the world's most twisted soundtrack. "You heard?" I whispered. She nodded. "Enough." My instinct told me to push her away. I'd spent years learning not to trust anyone who approached me suddenly with kindness. Most people who claimed to care only wanted something in return. "Look," I said quietly, "I appreciate it, but I don't know you. And honestly, I'm not exactly great company tonight." She smiled gently. "That's all right. I'm not offering company. I'm offering direction." Something about that sentence chilled me, like it held a meaning I wasn't prepared to understand yet. She stood and held out her hand. "Walk with me, just to the corner. If you want to leave after that, I won't stop you." My whole life I'd been told what to do, ordered, guilt-tripped, manipulated. This was the first time someone offered me a choice. I hesitated, then slowly took her hand and stood. My legs trembled from the emotional blow of the night, but she didn't rush me. She just walked beside me in silence, letting the world settle around us. When we reached the end of the block, she stopped beneath a street lamp. The light cast a warm halo around her, making her look almost unreal. "I'm sorry," I said again, "but who are you?" She met my gaze without flinching. "My name is Vera." I waited for more, but she let the name sit between us, like it should have meant something already. It didn't. Not yet. "Okay," I whispered shakily. "Well, thank you, Vera, for checking on me, but I'll be fine." That was a lie, and we both knew it. She tilted her head. Can I ask you something? I nodded, though my voice felt jammed in my throat. Why did they throw you out? I blinked at her bluntness. Most people tiptoe around questions like that. She didn't, because I don't have anything to offer, I said bitterly. At least that's what they believe. And what do you believe? Her question hit harder than my mother's cruelty. I swallowed. I believed them, I whispered, for a long time. A soft, sad smile touched her face. And tonight? I let out a shaky breath. Tonight? I'm not sure. With surprising gentleness, Vera placed her hand on my shoulder. Good. Doubt is the crack where the truth begins to shine through. The sentence was strange and poetic, and I didn't know what to do with it. Let me take you somewhere safe for the night, she said softly. Just for tonight. No expectations, no strings. You shouldn't be alone. I should have said no. I should have walked away. That's what logic told me. But logic had never saved me before. Logic had kept me loyal to people who wanted me small. Logic had tried to convince me that homelessness was better than accepting kindness. So instead, I asked, where are we going? Somewhere warm, she replied, and somewhere you're wanted. Wanted, a word that felt foreign in my life. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said, just tonight. She smiled like she expected that answer all along. We walked a few blocks until she led me to a car. Nothing flashy, nothing suspicious, just comfortable, safe. She opened the passenger door for me. Get in. I hesitated at the threshold. If you were me, I murmured, would you trust a stranger? She didn't laugh. She didn't mock the question. If I were you, she said gently, I'd realize not every hand reaching toward me is trying to push me further down. Something tightened in my chest. I got in. As the car pulled away from the street where my family had discarded me like garbage, a weight lifted from my body, only for a new one to replace it. The weight of uncertainty. The weight of possibility. Where exactly are we going? I asked as the city lights blurred past my window. Vera drove calmly, eyes steady on the road. A place I work, she said. A place filled with people who know what it feels like to start from nothing. People who understand reinvention. Reinvention? I echoed. Why would I need that? She smiled without looking at me. Because tonight was your ending. And endings always lead to something bigger. A chill crawled across my skin. What do you mean? You'll see, she murmured. But first, you need rest. Tomorrow is going to change your life. Panic, curiosity, fear, and hope swirled inside me like a storm. Vera, what exactly do you do? She finally turned her head, meeting my eyes with a quiet intensity that made my heart skip. I help people stand up after the world kicks them down, she said. And some people, I help rise higher than they ever imagined. My pulse quickened. And me? Vera smirked, but not unkindly. You, she whispered, are going to surprise everyone, including yourself. And as the car turned onto a secluded road lined with tall trees, one question burned in my mind. Who exactly was this woman, and why did she choose me? The road Vera turned onto was too quiet, too smooth, too far removed from the noise of the city for me to pretend this was anything ordinary. Streetlights grew farther apart, their glow softening until the world outside the window became a blur of shadows and silver streaks of moonlight slicing through the trees. I clutched my purse as if it were a life jacket. My pulse ticked like a second heartbeat in my throat. Every instinct I'd learned from years of disappointment warned me to run, to question, to brace myself. But another part of me, the part that had been cracked open on that sidewalk, leaned into the unknown. After everything I'd lost tonight, what else was left to fear? Vera didn't rush. She didn't make conversation. She just drove with the stillness of someone who knew exactly where she was going and why. That certainty alone kept me from panicking. Eventually, the car slowed in front of a gated property. A tall iron fence stood, like the border, to another world. Vera pressed a button on the console and the gates opened silently, almost too smoothly, as if they'd been expecting her. Or expecting me. The driveway curved through a well-lit path of manicured hedges and towering oaks until the house came into view. Not a house, a mansion. Not flashy, not gaudy, elegant, understated, powerful. My throat tightened. "What is this place?" I whispered. "Home," Vera said simply, "for now." The car parked near the entrance. Before I could touch the door handle, Vera turned to me. "Listen carefully," she said, her voice dipping into a tone that made my chest still. "Nothing that happened tonight defines you. Nothing they said, nothing they did. You are not their words, you are not their limits, and you are not their possession." The sentence felt like medicine I didn't know I needed. I nodded slowly. She stepped out and I followed, my legs unsteady but willing. As we walked up the marble steps, the front door opened automatically, revealing a warm foyer filled with soft lighting and an inviting scent. Lavender, eucalyptus, something soothing. A woman, maybe late 50s, wearing a long cardigan and holding a clipboard, looked up from behind a desk. "You must be our new arrival," she said gently. "New arrival?" I froze. "Don't worry," Vera said, placing a reassuring hand on my back. "She's here to help." The woman smiled kindly. "I'm Mara. Welcome." Welcome. A word my family had weaponized so thoroughly that hearing it spoken genuinely almost brought me to tears. I blinked hard. Thank you," I murmured. Mara motioned us deeper inside, guiding me into a large sitting room. Soft couches, blankets, bookshelves, a roaring fireplace. It looked like a retreat, not a shelter. "Sit," she encouraged. I sank into a plush armchair that hugged my body like it had been waiting for me. Vera remained standing, watching me with a quiet intensity. "Why am I here?" I asked finally. "Because you need a place where no one breaks you down," she replied. "A place to breathe, a place to rebuild." "Rebuild what?" I whispered. "Your life," Vera said simply. "Or what's left of it after they tried to take everything from you." I swallowed hard. I don't understand." Vera took the seat across from me. "Some people spend their entire lives carrying wounds that weren't theirs to begin with," she said. "Your family didn't just kick you out tonight. They've been pushing you out slowly for years." A cold realization spread through me. She wasn't wrong. My family had been clawing pieces off me long before tonight. My confidence, my identity, my self-worth. "People like you," Vera continued, "don't need saving. You need space, resources, guidance, and people who recognize your value before you become something they can benefit from." Her voice was low, calm, but there was something else beneath it. Approval, recognition, belief. "You think I have value?" I asked weakly, like the word was foreign in my mouth. "I don't think," Vera said. "I know." Something inside me trembled. Mara brought a cup of hot tea and placed it in my hands. "You're safe here," she said. "And tomorrow we'll talk about next steps." "Next steps?" I echoed. "Toward what?" "Toward the life you were meant to have," Vera said. "Not the one your family forced you to accept." I stared into the steam rising from the cup, the warmth reaching my chilled fingers. It felt symbolic, like I was thawing for the first time in years. "What exactly is this place?" I asked, finally brave enough to demand clarity. Vera's lips curved into a knowing half-smile. "A sanctuary," she said, "for people who were thrown away by those who should have protected them, and for people whose potential terrified the wrong crowd." "Why me?" I whispered. "There must be others." She shook her head slightly. I saw the way you stood there on that sidewalk, broken but not defeated, abandoned but not erased, and I recognized someone who can rise. My throat tightened. Rise to what? Vera leaned forward. To a version of yourself your family was too small-minded to imagine. A shiver ran down my spine. Not fear, anticipation. Rest tonight, she said gently. Tomorrow, you'll understand everything. She stood and motioned for Mara to lead me upstairs. I followed slowly, the weight of the night easing with every step. Mara opened the door to a beautifully furnished bedroom. Soft bed, clean linens, warm light. This is yours, she said. No one will disturb you. I stepped inside, overwhelmed. Why are you helping me? Mara smiled gently. Because everyone deserves one moment in their life where someone chooses them without conditions. I swallowed the lump in my throat. She closed the door quietly, leaving me alone. I sat on the bed, shoes still on, mind spinning. The house was silent except for the faint hum of night settling in. My family had discarded me, stripped me of dignity, left me with nothing. But here I had a room, a bed, safety, possibility, a stranger who seemed to know more about my pain than I did, and a tomorrow that sounded like a door waiting to open. As I lay back against the pillow, one thought echoed louder than the rest. What exactly was going to happen tomorrow, and why did it feel like my real life was only just beginning? Morning didn't greet me gently. It arrived with a sharp, disorienting brightness that forced my eyes open before my mind was ready. For a few seconds, I forgot where I was. The ceiling wasn't the cracked one from my old apartment. The sheets weren't the rough thrift store kind I'd learned to settle for. The silence wasn't the tense, heavy kind that lived in my family's house. This was soft, warm, safe. And then everything crashed back into me at once. The party, the humiliation, the sidewalk, Vera's whisper, this stranger's mansion. I sat upright, heart pounding, trying to steady my breathing. Nobody deserves to sit alone in the dark after being pushed out by their own blood. Her voice replayed in my mind, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel foolish for wanting something better. I got out of bed and walked toward the window. The view was nothing like the city blocks I'd grown up around. Instead, I saw gardens. Slush, intentional, peaceful. I wondered what kind of people lived here. What kind of world had room for a girl like me? A soft knock on the door startled me. "Come in," I called, though my voice wavered. Mara stepped inside, holding a neatly folded stack of clothes. "Good morning," she said with that calm warmth she carried like a second skin. "Did you sleep?" I nodded. "Better than I expected." She smiled. "Good. Breakfast is waiting downstairs. Vera wants to talk with you afterward." My stomach twisted. "About what?" "About why you're here," Mara said simply. "About what she sees in you." I swallowed. "Do you know?" Mara's eyes softened. "I think I do, but it's better if you hear it from her." She placed the clothes on the chair and added, "Take your time. Today is going to be significant." That word lingered long after she'd left. Significant. I showered, dressed in the simple but elegant clothes left for me, and made my way downstairs. The dining room was bright, lined with tall windows overlooking the garden. A long table sat in the center, but only one place was set, mine. And beside it sat Vera. She wasn't eating. She was reading something, glasses perched at the edge of her nose. She looked up when I approached, and for a moment, something like pride flickered in her expression. "Sit," she said. I did. A plate of warm food rested in front of me, eggs, toast, fruit, more than I had eaten in the last 2 days combined. "Eat first," she said, Talking can wait." I obeyed. The food tasted better than it should have. Maybe it was the hunger, maybe it was the company, maybe it was the fact that for once, I didn't have to force myself to swallow around judgment. When I finished, she folded her glasses and set them aside. "Good," she said softly. "Now we can talk." My palms grew damp. "About why I'm here?" "Yes." She leaned back, studying me with an intensity that made me straighten my posture without thinking. "Tell me," she said, "do you know what happens to people who are constantly told they're worthless?" The question hit me like a stone. "They start to believe it," I whispered. "No," she said firmly, "that comes later. First, they shrink. They minimize themselves. They try to earn love by being small and quiet. They swallow their voice hoping someone will finally hear them." Her eyes held mine. "You did that for too long." A lump rose in my throat. "My family." "Your family," she interrupted, took and took until you had nothing left to give except your silence." I felt the tears forming, but I fought them down. "But here's the thing," she continued. "People like you, people who carry that much damage, also carry something else." "What?" I whispered. "Potential," she said. "Raw, unpolished, unclaimed potential. The kind that grows from surviving things that would have shattered other people." My breath wavered. "I don't understand." "You will," she said. "Let me show you something." She stood and motioned for me to follow her. My legs trembled as I walked behind her through a hallway lined with framed photographs, not of families or vacations, but of people. Faces full of strength, determination, pain, survival. We reached a room at the end of the hall. She pushed the door open. Inside were desks, whiteboards, computers, and scattered papers. It looked like a planning room or a war room. "What is this?" I whispered. "This," she said, "is where people begin again." She pointed to a board covered in names, some crossed out, some circled, some with arrows next to them. "Everyone who comes here has been broken by someone they trusted," she explained. "Everyone. They arrive lost, discarded, humiliated, and they leave rebuilt." She turned to me, eyes sharp. "You have something inside you. Strength you don't recognize yet. Vision you haven't claimed." "Vision?" I repeated. She nodded. "You think pain has only taken from you, but pain is also shaping you, sharpening you, forging you." My pulse hammered in my ears. "What are you saying?" She stepped closer. "I'm saying you're not meant for the life they forced you into. You're meant for something bigger, something they were too small to imagine." Something fluttered inside me. Fear, hope, disbelief, all tangled together. "Why me?" I whispered. "How can you be so sure?" She held my gaze, unwavering. "Because I have spent years finding people like you. People the world throws away too soon. People who rise higher than anyone expects. People who don't just rebuild their lives." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "They transform them." A breath escaped me, shaky and unsure. "So what do you want from me?" Vera took a deep breath. "Not obedience, not gratitude, not loyalty." Her voice softened but grew more intense. "I want you to stop letting your family define your worth. I want you to take the pieces of yourself they tried to break and turn them into armor. And I want you to understand something important." She reached out and gently touched my shoulder. "You were never the weakest one in your family." My eyes stung. Then who was? Her answer was a whisper that sent chills down my spine. "The ones who needed to dim your light just to make their own shine." I inhaled sharply. She stepped back, giving me space. "And now," she said, "it's time for you to choose what kind of life you want to build next." I swallowed hard. What if I don't know? "Then that," she said, "is where we begin." I stood there, silent, trembling at the edge of a life I didn't know existed, and as Vera looked at me, really looked at me. I realized something terrifying and electrifying all at once. Tonight, my family had thrown me out of their world. But Vera was offering to show me how to build my own. I stood in that war room-like space with my breath tangled in my chest, my heart beating so loudly I could feel it echoing in my ribs. Everything in this house looked like it belonged to people who mattered, people who had been believed, supported, lifted, and yet here I was, standing in the middle of it all, feeling like a mismatched puzzle piece someone accidentally dropped into the wrong box. Vera watched me carefully, as if she could see every panicked thought forming before I even had the courage to speak it. "You're overwhelmed," she said gently. I let out a shaky laugh. "That obvious?" "It's not a weakness," she replied softly. "It's a sign that your world just cracked open." She walked toward a table covered in papers, notebooks, sketches, and diagrams. Things that looked like they belonged in planning meetings or innovation labs, not the home of a stranger who found me crying on a curb. "Come," she said, beckoning me closer. I forced my legs to move. The closer I got, the more the details sharpened. Names underlined in blue, arrows connecting ideas, lists of goals, and in the center of it all, a single phrase written boldly across the board: rebuild the broken into the unstoppable. A chill rolled through me. "What is all this?" I whispered. "These are the people I've helped," Vera said. "People like you, people who were thrown away, dismissed, humiliated, underestimated. People whose families failed them." "How?" I asked. "By giving them what the world refused to offer them: space, tools, knowledge, direction, and the courage to start again." She walked around the table and picked up a thin binder. "This," she said, placing it in my hands, "is someone's entire new life." I blinked at her. "What do you mean, their new life?" "Their transformation," she explained. "Where they were when they came here, and where they are now." I opened it hesitantly. The first page was a photo of a young woman, eyes dull, posture slumped. The next page showed her again months later, standing in an office, holding a certificate, smiling like she'd finally come up for air after drowning for years. "She came here after being kicked out by her family too," Vera said. "Now she's running her own business." My throat tightened. She handed me another binder, a man this time, then another, a teenager, a mother, a man in his 60s. Each story was different, but the pattern was the same. Broken, discarded, rebuilt. "You help all these people?" I whispered. "Not help," she corrected softly. "I give them the foundation. The strength comes from them." I swallowed hard. "Why me, though? Why did you pick me?" She stared at me with a depth that made my skin prickle. "Because most people who get thrown out fall apart," she said. "But you didn't. You cried, yes, you were hurt, yes, but you didn't collapse. You kept breathing in a world that tried to suffocate you. Do you know how rare that is?" I looked away, trying to blink back tears. "You don't even know me," I whispered. "I know enough," she replied. "I know you walked out of a house that tried to destroy you without begging. I know you didn't scream or fight or sink to their level. I know you didn't chase after people who had already chosen to throw you away. And I know that the moment I asked you to walk with me, you stood. Not because you trusted me, but because you trusted yourself enough to try." Every word she said sank deeper into me, warming old wounds I didn't even realize were still bleeding. "You see," Vera continued, "the world doesn't break the weak. The world breaks the strong disguised as weak, because once they learn their true strength," she gestured to the board of transformed lives, "they become unstoppable." My knees almost gave out. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "But before we talk about your future, there's something you need to understand about your past." I stiffened. "What do you mean?" Vera motioned for me to follow her again. She led me to a smaller room off to the side, a room I hadn't noticed before. When she opened the door, my breath caught in my throat. The walls were covered in information. Photos, notes, printed text messages, screenshots of social media posts, my name circled on a few documents, even a photo of my family's house. My stomach dropped. What is all this? I whispered, my voice cracking. Information, Vera said calmly. I told you, your story isn't unique. Families like yours follow patterns, predictable patterns, and when I see someone being targeted by those patterns, I step in. I shook my head slowly, trying to process. You were watching me? Not watching, she clarified, observing. Before I ever spoke to you, I made sure you were someone who needed stepping in. My legs felt like water. Why me? Because your family has been isolating you slowly for years, she said. And isolation, true isolation, is one of the most dangerous things a person can experience. My chest tightened painfully. How do you know all this? She pointed to a corner of the board, a printed text conversation between my mother and sister, sent weeks ago. She'll never amount to much. She'll leave eventually, we won't have to push. My heart split open. I covered my mouth, choking on my own breath. Vera's voice softened. I didn't bring you here to terrify you. I brought you here so you see the full truth. They didn't kick you out tonight because of something you did. They've been preparing to remove you from their narrative for a long time. Tears finally spilled down my cheeks. My whole body trembled. They planned it? They assumed you'd break quietly, Vera said. You didn't. I sank into the nearest chair, sobbing into my hands. Every memory suddenly had a new meaning. Every cold shoulder, every forced smile, every accidental exclusion. They weren't random. They were deliberate. What do I do now? I whispered, voice shattered. Vera knelt in front of me, her hands warm on my shaking knees. Now, she said, you stop asking what to do. Now you decide who you want to become. I don't know who that is, I cried. She smiled gently, brushing a tear from my cheek. That's the beautiful part, she whispered. You get to build her from scratch. And as I stared into the face of the stranger who knew more about my pain than the family who raised me, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. For the first time in my life, the future wasn't something happening to me. It was something I was being invited to create. I don't know how long I sat in that chair, staring at the wall of evidence, the texts, the pictures, the notes, each one slicing through another layer of denial. I didn't even realize I'd wrapped around myself. It was like watching my entire life be redrawn in front of me with a sharper, crueler pen. Everything I had excused, everything I had forgiven, everything I had blamed on stress or misunderstanding or bad timing suddenly aligned into one horrifying truth. They didn't love me the way I loved them. They didn't even want me, not really. They wanted the version of me that needed them, the version that obeyed, that apologized, that stayed small enough to fit into the background of their perfect little family portrait. Vera watched me unravel without rushing to stop it. She understood, maybe better than I did, that sometimes the only way to truly stand up is to let yourself fall apart first. When the tears finally slowed, she handed me a tissue and sat back, giving me space to breathe. What you saw in this room, she said softly, is not who you are, it's who they believed you to be. There's a difference. My voice trembled. Why didn't they want me? They did, she corrected gently, but only on their terms. I shook my head, wiping my face with the back of my hand. I did everything for them. I tried to fit in. I tried to be enough. Enough, Vera repeated with a bitter laugh. You could have been perfect and it still wouldn't have been enough, because people who decide your worth for you will always keep raising the bar just to watch you fail. I swallowed hard, the truth sinking deeper. So what now? Now, she said, you learn who you are without them. She walked back over to the board and pulled down one of the photos. My family sitting around the table months ago, everyone smiling except me. She held it up. This is the girl who walked into their house last night, she said, the one who still hoped they might see her. She then held up another photo, the one from the curb when she found me crying under the street lamp. This is the girl who lost everything in a single night, but still stood up when I asked her to walk. She dropped both photos into a small metal bin beside the desk. And now, she said, now it's time for the girl who comes next. She struck a match and let the flame catch the corner of the photographs. I watched as the edges curled, darkened, and crumbled. The images burned until nothing remained but soft ash. Something inside me burned with them. Anger, grief, shame, hope, exhaustion, all mixing into something new and unfamiliar. Vera turned to me again. I want to show you something, she said, motioning for me to follow her once more. I stood on shaky legs and followed her down another hallway to a door made of frosted glass. She pressed her palm to a scanner and the door slid open with a soft hiss. I stepped inside and froze. The room was nothing like the others. It wasn't cozy or warm. It was sleek, modern, and filled with people. People working. People talking. People planning. A dozen individuals, men, women, young, old, sat at desks or gathered around whiteboards. Some typed furiously, some brainstormed ideas, some analyzed data or reviewed plans. It was a hub of purpose, of direction, of rebuilding. What is this place? I whispered. This, Vera said, stepping beside me, is where your new life begins. My heart thudded painfully. Who are these people? People who were once where you are now, she replied. People who were discarded by families, partners, employers, communities. People who have something to prove, not to others, but to themselves. A woman in her 20s looked up from a computer and smiled at me. A man in his 50s gave me a nod of acknowledgement. A younger boy, barely 18, sketched something intensely on a tablet, his brow furrowed in focus. They call this place a sanctuary? I asked. Sanctuary, she repeated, is only the first step. What we build here isn't safety, it's strength, identity, reinvention. My breath hitched. And what do you expect me to do here? Learn, she said. Heal, discover your voice, and eventually, she gestured toward a whiteboard filled with future plans, timelines, goals. Build something of your own. Fear flickered through me. What if I can't? Vera turned to me fully, her expression fierce in its certainty. You can. Because people who have nothing left are the ones who rise the highest. People with no safety net learn to create their own. People who have been broken learn to build stronger than anyone else. I looked around the room again, at the faces, the determination, the quiet fire. But what do I even have to offer? I whispered. What if I don't have a talent, a skill, a purpose? Vera stepped closer, lowering her voice. Everyone has a purpose, but most people never discover it because they're too busy surviving other people's expectations. And mine? I asked. What if I don't have one? You do, she said. I can see it in you, even if you can't yet. My throat tightened again. How do you know? Because when everything collapsed around you, she said, you didn't collapse with it. You stood up, you walked away, and you stepped into the unknown. She paused, letting silence underline the weight of her words. That is purpose. That is strength. That is the beginning. I blinked hard, my vision blurring. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. Good, she said. The people who walk in here thinking they know everything are the ones who never grow." I took a shaky breath. "So what happens now?" Vera smiled, not the gentle smile she'd given me before. A sharper one, full of promise and challenge. "Now," she said, "you meet the others. You learn your options. You rebuild from the ashes they tried to bury you in." She placed a hand over my heart. "And tomorrow morning, you will take your first step toward the version of yourself they never believed you could become." My pulse kicked. Hard. "And my family?" I whispered. Her smile faded into something colder. "Your family," she said, "will face the consequences of underestimating you, because people always do." A shiver ran through me. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, turning back to the room, "that one day soon they will see exactly who you became after they threw you away. And trust me," she glanced back over her shoulder at me, eyes gleaming, "nothing terrifies small people more than realizing the person they broke has risen higher than they could ever reach." A breath trembled out of me. Everything inside me trembled. But beneath the fear, something else began to spark. Something dangerous. Something alive. And in that moment, surrounded by strangers who understood pain the way I understood breathing, I realized the truth. My family had ended my old life. But this place, this woman, this moment, it was the beginning of something far bigger. Something beautiful, something powerful, something they would never be able to take away.